going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good day, good afternoon. Today, Mike Motivation. Let's talk about starting from scratch, no matter what age. Sometimes you have to start over, man. I've been there a couple times in my life. Sometimes you go through some things and you fall to the bottom and you have to get back out the bottom. A lot of kids growing up in the trenches, that's what they call it now. And you don't have a lot of things to go off of. It's just you sometimes, just you, pretty much. You don't have the example, you don't have the mentor, you don't have somebody to reference off of. But I'm here to tell you that you can start from scratch and start building or getting to success. Now, what success looks like for a regular person is a little different than a person, I guess, who rich in Hollywood. You do acting or do a movie or something, you get like a bunch of money at one time. I get it. But for regular people, it's a little different. It's a little different. It's for regular people, it's more of a steady process of climbing, building, taking advantage of opportunities here and there. But let's talk about starting from scratch, right? Some of the things that I learned starting from scratch. Jay, man, you should come in here, man. If you ain't tied up, I'm gonna send you a link. If you're not tied up, sending it right now. Like Jay said, it's never too late. Don't ever feel like it's too late. However, the challenge is, and we're going to talk about some of that right now, the challenges of coming out from scratch, right? Let's talk about the first one. The margin for error is slim. It's slim. You have to keep your nose clean. You got to stay out of trouble as much as you can. Not get involved in stuff that's not going to be a benefit to you, that can put you in situations to where you can be in court or the legal system or be in limbo, having to deal with other people because of an action that you did or somebody that you know did. It could put you in harm's way. The margin for error is so slim when you start from scratch that you have to be careful about every move that you make. You don't have to be paranoid, but you have to build in some kind of mechanism to ask yourself, does this make sense, what I'm about to do? Talking to this girl, does this make sense? Rolling with this person, does it make sense? The margin for error is so slim sometimes because you don't have the money to cover the error when you make it. Making bad financial decisions. You don't have the money to recover from bad finance, especially big bad financial decisions. You don't have the money when you start from scratch. Being down $10,000 when you start from scratch, that's a lot to climb out of. When you start from scratch and it's just you and you working a regular job, you don't want to put yourself in a $10,000 hole because that could set you back for years. Talking to the wrong girl. As a man, talking to the wrong woman. The margin for error is slim when you start from scratch. You mess around, talk to the wrong woman. We've seen it time and time again. Y'all not compatible, or this person is just not on a mentally stable plane. It could set you back. Have you in the legal system. Happens all the time. Going down the wrong path could set you back. Could put you in a messed up situation. Think about, like, say, stealing, right? Breaking in people's houses. That could set you back. You may get some money, but guess what? You got to duck and dodge and watch over your shoulder. Margin for error is slim on that, because you could break in somebody's house. They could actually be there. They can have a shotgun waiting on you. You don't know. You go up in there, boom. Margin for error, they're slim. Selling drugs, margin for error is slim. You get caught with fentanyl, you're going to jail for a long time. Unfortunately, but that's what's going to happen. Having a gun with a switch, right? Switches are illegal. You cannot justify having a switch on a gun because it makes it shoot fully automatic. They consider it a machine gun. The margin for error is slim. If you get caught with a switch, you're going to get fair time. Even if all the other charges don't stick, they're going to stick you with that switch. Even having the switch off the gun, just have it in the vicinity of another gun, you can still get the federal charge of having the switch. If you take it off and put it in a different place, don't matter. If you get caught with it, the margin for error is slim on it. You probably ain't gonna get out of it. So you have to think about what you're doing before you take on that stuff, because it may not be worth it unless you want to do the jail fair time. It's up to you. Well, all I'm saying is I don't think it's worth it. I had to learn this. Margin for slim. The margin for error is slim when you start from scratch. You start messing around with women. You ain't protecting yourself. You mess around, have 2 or 3 kids. It's hard to recover from that if you're not in a solid place career-wise. Even then, it's going to take so much money. You know, if you get put on child support by multiple people, or one person having 3 kids, y'all not together, that's going to eat up a lot of your income, child support. That's why it's best to wait until you get married, because when you playing around in a dating game and you having sex unprotected, you may not plan to have kids, but you're playing around with the margin for error of having kids. So when people say, well, I didn't plan to have kids, if you out there having sex unprotected, you're pretty much saying you're playing with the margin for error of having kids. Think about that. Not educating yourself. We're going to talk about this and probably here a couple more seconds, but not pursuing some kind of post education after high school, you will really make that margin for error very slim, because you're not in a career. You're working jobs. Jobs only pay you so much. You want to get into a career, so not only where you can get paid, but you got benefits where you can take off if you need to. You have insurance that you can actually pay for and still have some money left over when you get into that career. Benefits, like insurance now, is almost worth more than actual cash, because something happened to you. A lot of times, especially dentist office and stuff like that, you got to pay up front. I don't even know if they do payment plans anymore. I'm not sure. Most of the time that I've seen, you got to pay up front. So the next one is there may not be any examples to reference. There may not be a mentor. There may not be people that come talk to your school, community you live in. There may not be people of different career fields. But guess what? Now, 2025, you can do the research. The information's out there. The data is out there. Everything is out there. All you got to do is look for it. This ain't like 1998 where there's no social media, no LinkedIn, none of that. It's out there now. All you have to do is go look for it. Success leave breadcrumbs if you're willing to follow the path. But you have to go look for it. Having a mentor is great, but not everybody has the luxury of having a mentor. So sometimes you have to encourage yourself. Sometimes there's people around you that if you just really think about what they're doing, they may be doing some good things, but because they're not flashy, they don't have the newest car, they don't have all of the flashy things. A lot of people think that they're not successful, but that is far from the truth. So just know, just because there are not any examples around to reference does not mean that you can't start from scratch, because you can. The information's out there now. Why education is important. Why education is important. When you start from scratch, you start from the trenches. Knowledge is power, because a lot of times situations humans be in is because of, this is my opinion, because I've been there, limited knowledge, rejecting the idea of post-education. I did all of these pretty much. I'm talking about myself. And not realizing the time that you have to invest in education. When I was 17, we graduated high school, I looked into post-education, but I didn't look deep enough. I really stopped. I looked into being a massage therapist, seeing how much it was, then I just stopped. I didn't look at any other options. That's why I always say, look at all of your options, put them all on the table. What are your options? And then start doing process of elimination. See what's all out there that's available. And guess what? You may not have an adult to sit down with you. Sometimes you may have to do it. You may have to go on the internet and look this stuff up. But it's out there for you to do. There's almost no reason to complain about something unless you just want to. But there are so many ways now that you can educate yourself. You can develop yourself in 2025. But you have to take the initiative. You have to be engaged. To me, it's individual. Like I say, I'm from Southwest, Baseline, Chico, Homeboys live in Wakefield, McClellan, 2001. I wasn't a street guy at all. I'm not gonna ever say that. But you still growing up in the city, and you don't have a lot of exposure to the different career fields based on the proximity of where you live. And anybody know you live in Southwest, most people that work in Southwest, that's like in the careers, you have to go outside of Southwest. You're either gonna be working downtown, you're gonna be working, You go past Asher. Now, are there career places in Southwest? Sure. Just depending on what area you want to work in. But when you start getting into technology stuff, you start getting into state jobs, you start getting into stuff like that, federal. A lot of that is in the central part of Little Rock, not in Southwest. A lot of stuff that's in Southwest is either warehousing, retail, restaurant, and stuff like that in between, stuff like that. Not a lot of ain't no tech jobs done like that. Even with Amazon, that's on the outskirts of Little Rock in Alexander or something like that. Then the other one like out there in College Station, stuff like that. But in actual Southwest, let me know in the comments the ratio of like what's available to you. Most people that work in Southwest, that's like in the career jobs, unless you're doing like your own business, like landscaping or something like that, or somebody needs. Most people working in retail, restaurant, or daycare or something like that. But when you start talking about tech stuff, a lot of this not in Southwest. You got to go to the central part. Education is important because you get to gain knowledge in something that makes sense. Like let's say if you go to school for business, you go to school for STEM, science, technology, education, and math. Very important. Why is business important? Learning about business. There are a lot of things as a community. There's some little detailed things that we may be missing out on that we don't quite know because we haven't learned it, or you learn through trial and error. But what if you can learn these things before you take the trial and errors? How would that minimize your margin for error? Because you know what you're getting into instead, I just find out and deal with it. Understanding what feasibility means. Understanding, can the community support the business that you're trying to open? Things are very important. That's why education is important. I used to think that it wasn't until I found out that it was. And you will hear me say that over and over, education is important. Education does not necessarily mean a degree. There's other things you can educate yourself in. You just have to take initiative and look and be engaged and find something that you're interested in that can give you that post-education value, and you can take that into the job market, and your value will start to demand more money. So, what is hard as an adult? You always hear people say that, man, that's hard. That's difficult. That's hard. I don't want to go to school. That's hard going to school for 4 years. I don't want to do this because that's 5 years, 6 years. That's hard. You know what else is hard? Making just enough to pay your bills, and after you pay your bills, you only got a few $100 left over, and you got to make it to the next paycheck. That's hard. When you only got $200 left over, and you got to pay for gas, you got to pay for food, and Lord knows don't nothing else miscellaneous happen. A flat tire, something with the car. That's hard. Sometimes we don't want to do the hard things because I've been there. You want to do the easy things, but I'm telling you from experience, the easy stuff don't pay as much as the stuff that's a challenge. It's more difficult. So with that being said, What is hard as an adult? You can make something hard or you can make something easy based on your perspective. If you keep saying something is hard, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to do it. If something, you face a challenge and you try your best to figure it out, how can I make this simplified or how can I make it more simple? That's the way to go about it. But just keep saying it's hard. I don't want to do that. It's like saying you don't want to develop, you don't want to go to the next level. I'm comfortable right where I'm at. That's what it sounds like you're saying. You have to be careful about what you label as hard and what you don't want to do. Sometimes it's on the other side of hard is where your success at. Do you want success? Or are you comfortable where you at? It's up to you. Everybody's different. But what I'm saying is there are different hards. And sometimes, like they say you got to pick your hard. When I went to school, graduated undergrad, it was tough. It was. I'm not going to tell you it was easy. However, I didn't tell myself that. I had to figure out, how do I get past this stage? How do I get past this class? How do I efficiently do this homework? And how do I fight myself? You're constantly in life as an adult male. I know for males, you're constantly battling yourself. What you feel like doing, what you don't feel like doing. Willing yourself to feel like doing it. You're battling mind stuff. Man, if I could just do this today, if I could just lay down. Sometimes you don't have time to lay down. You have to handle business. Balancing a budget. Being a husband, you have to be the leader of the house. You have to be the example. So you're held to a high standard. So your reactions have to be different. When you mess up, it is highly magnified. And you have to redeem yourself even when things around you are not encouraging you. You still have to find a way to redeem yourself and stay in the leadership position, even when you mess up as an adult male. So what is hard as an adult? It's a lot of things that's hard. But if you stay in that mindset, dog, that's too hard, you'll never get it done. Getting to success, the different stages of success, is not easy, but it can be done. It's all about your will. And let's talk about that right now. Finding the will to win in negative circumstances. As a male, grew up in the inner city, black male, I either put myself or I found myself in negative circumstances. And for me, when I was younger, as I started to get older, I found out it was all about how I reacted. You can only control you, how you react, how you think, what you get involved in. You cannot control the other person. That's the hardest thing to realize when you're in negative circumstances. And as you become an adult, you do your best to try to avoid being in negative circumstances, because anything could happen and that could jeopardize your life, that could jeopardize your freedom, that could jeopardize your mental space. You try to have foresight and try not to put yourself in a situation that puts you at a disadvantage, or be around people that could put you in a disadvantage. When you're working in the corporate world, You will run into negative circumstances, whether it's race, whether it's unfairness, all these different kind of things. But when you develop in yourself the will to win, you can endure those things and still get to the other side. It may not be the way that you want to get there, but you still can get there. However, you got to have the will to win. A lot of people may not want to have that will to win because it requires you to be able to absorb and endure things and not let it affect you. I know that sounds like a mouthful, but I promise you, when you develop the will to win, you'll find out what you're made of. You'll find out that a lot of things don't affect you. But you got to have the will to win. You have to develop that. You have to work on that. And it's a constant maintaining of the will to win in negative circumstances. Guess what? You in the trenches. You living in a house that ain't the best in the world. Find that will to win. Maybe you need to go to the library for most of the day. Then you just come home and sleep. If there's a will, there's a way. Don't minimize your will. Increase your will to win. Sometimes you may need to bring books home. Increase your will to win. Don't put yourself in situations that challenge your freedom, challenge your life, or challenge your mind. Finding that will to win will give you the discipline to disregard those things. I don't need that thing. I don't need XYZ because it's going to mess with my will to win. It's going to affect my judgment. It's going to cloud my mind, and I don't need that. Finding the will to win. I cannot stress it enough. Don't allow circumstances to affect your will or to drain your will. Find the will to win. Limit or understand your margin for error because it could be slim. You don't have a whole lot of tolerance to mess up. Remember, there may not be any examples to reference. Understand why education is important. Information and knowledge is key. Knowledge is power. Pick your hard as an adult. Don't allow hard to stop you from elevating and moving. You think it's hard to go to school? I'm telling you, it's harder to live on minimum wage in 2025. They both hard. But which one would you choose? Finding the will to win in negative circumstances. We all face them as humans, negative circumstances. But if you find the will to win, find a way to control yourself, have ice water in your veins. Kind of like in sports when they say come through in the clutch. Sometimes in negative circumstances, that's like clutch time. You have to come through in the clutch. You need ice water in your veins, especially if you want to be a family man, especially if you want to be a husband. You have to really maintain your peace, your temperance in negative situations. You have to realize it's not worth it. I got to come home to my family at the end of the day. And what I don't want to do is mess up the house money because I'm in jail because of something that I could have avoided. And it happens more than what people want to talk about. And when you learn about accountability to self, not somebody else holding me accountable, but me holding myself accountable, you'll find yourself avoiding a lot of situations. You can see it before it even comes. You can smell it. You're like, oh no, this ain't, I'm out of here. I'm good. But you got to have the will to win. Yo, this is Mike Motivation. I hope that I give you some insight on how to start from scratch to success. It's not easy. Not saying that like these YouTube people talking crazy, talking about you can do it in 10 steps. It may take you 25 or 30 steps. But you have to know these things. Margin for error. You may not have a mentor, but there's information out there. If you do the research, you may have to encourage yourself. Why education is important, which it is. Why is it hard as an adult? And finding the will to win in negative circumstances. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Help the Mike Flair channel grow. Help the CTM TV channel grow. And as we grow, as we get access to more resources, we can make more content. I will catch you on the next one. Thank you for watching. And tune in to the next Mike Motivation.